So important, the level of manipulation that an AI can potentially do is just off the chart.
Because what I saw was a necklace with a camera. That is just... If they want to fail, that's the way to do it. So basically, it's a simulation where the hospital is AI generated, simulated, the doctors are AI, the patients are AI. And somebody online said, Aragorn, what's the use of this?
The entire country gets access to ChatGPT Plus.
A lot of super smart young kids that are super quick to figure out how this stuff works, they're going to run multi-million-dollar businesses, billion-dollar businesses.
Hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Innovation Network newsletter, where we look back in the past 2 weeks at everything about innovation, AI, robotics, metaverse, etc. together with my buddy Aragorn Meulendijks. How you doing?
This is a whole new introduction, Patrick.
This is a whole new introduction.
whole new introduction. Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. Yeah, of course.
Cool. So we got a lot of topics to cover this week, so let's immediately dive into it, right?
Yeah, sounds good.
Let's start with the first topic on the agenda, Aragorn. Google had a large event called I/O. I think it stands for Input Output, right?
I think so, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, they had about 100 announcements, and it was a huge one. So we picked just a couple of them out of there, and one of them is, of course, the release of VO3, their video generation model. You had a chance to play with it. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly, I was kind of blown away again because I was kind of expecting. I mean, of course, AI generated video is really making leaps all the time, but I just wasn't prepared specifically for what would happen when they added audio, because this is one of the major upgrades that VO has, and it now has this advantage over every other AI video generator, right? Yeah. It's literally the only one that doesn't just generate the images or the video, but also generates audio. So not only is it in the top level of consistency, so the character stays consistent, it's in the top of simulating physics. It's not really simulating physics, but it can show physics really well. And it has audio. And the whole combination package is super powerful. And even though the scenes are still only 8 seconds long, it just really, they took it to a whole new level. And despite the fact that I know this was going to happen, it still blows my mind.
Yeah, and you see all the social media channels are basically flooding with cool content from all different angles. And what I really liked was the ones where they kind of mimic social influences. They just videotape somebody on the street. It really looks like two people having a real conversation. And the whole conversation is also AI generated. There's even short clips of comedians standing on stage telling a joke. And that joke was not separately woven in there, but it was completely fully generated.
Yeah, exactly. And so I generated some videos. I went through my credits way too quickly because I completely underestimated how little credit you get with the Google AI Pro sub. And you need to use VPN. So you need to use VPN. But I mean, it's still mind-blowing because now you can basically say, okay, I want a scene with this person saying this and this to... and then that's what you get. And look, what you're showing now, for example, is you're seeing two burning, what do you call them? Matches, lucifers, matches. Yeah. And now it's 3D printing. And all of this, not only are the physics really good, and that's impressive, but the real mind-blowing thing is when you see people and you hear them singing or you hear them having a conversation, and with a single prompt, you can have them say anything you want, right? Yeah. That's really kind of, I mean, look at this. Look at this, man. The ad industry is going to change. We knew this, but...
Is flow. So you basically, Google has two ways to approach VO, right? You can do it directly, so you can generate just the clips. Flow is, let's say, a wrapper around it that you can see it into a director's chair and do more with these kind of things. And I just found this website on Google Labs, where you have, let's say, a randomizer with all kinds of videos that you can create from it with different background. Gives a good impression of what the capabilities of the systems are.
Yeah.
Hey, you said something interesting. How can people access this? Because you have a Gemini Pro subscription. How does it work?
Yeah, so funny enough, I was fully expecting this to be something you could access through the Google AI Studio. So if you go to aistudio.google.com and you have a Google Pro subscription, or you have Google Workplace and you have it activated, you have access to a lot of models there. You can try them out, and you can try out all kinds of different things. So I thought it would be in there under the generate media option. option, but it's not in there. So although I highly recommend anybody to try it, AI Studio from Google, it wasn't in there. The only way for me to access it is to open a VPN to the US and then to simply go to Gemini itself. So, which basically means either you have the app installed on your Windows PC or you go to, I think it's just gemini.google.com. Yeah, gemini.google.com. So you go to gemini.google.com, and then if you have the VPN open when you start the session, you will have a button at the bottom that says video. And then you can generate video with VO3. And then you just tell it what you want to see, what you want to hear, and then it will generate that. However, I highly recommend you, since we have very limited credits at the moment, to think carefully before you ask it to do something. And if you're in the Netherlands or in Europe, do it in the morning, because after like lunch, the Americans come online and you have to give the prompt like 10 times before it actually starts generating anything, because America is just completely overwhelming Google's capacity.
And there's also another video. I will mute it so we can talk a little bit about it. But this is actually a new video from my friend Kevin, who we discussed earlier, who had created a 10-minute video on Batman. But this is a type of person, give him 1 week access to a new tool like that. Maybe he already had earlier access than that. Some of these creators do. But this is his new video. I have not seen it completely yet, but you did. Tell me more. What is it?
Well, basically he set out, and of course when we first showed him, I don't know by the way if his name's Kevin or Kevin. So I'm gonna say Kevin, you say Kevin, and hopefully one of us gets it right. But he released this video about half a year ago, I think at the end of 2024, and it was a Batman movie. And he put it on YouTube, and I met him through the guys from Arcana. Arcana is a platform for using all kinds of AI to generate images and videos. This is developed by Hollywood producers that I met in Bulgaria when they were there for the filming of a new Second World War movie about the Battle of the Bulge. Super cool, with the young Eastwood. What's his name? I always forget his first name because I think of Clint, but Clint Eastwood's son. And so he is working with them. Kevin is working with them. And he made this Batman movie 6 or 8 months ago, and it was instantly banned from YouTube because he got a copyright strike from Warner Brothers, I think it was at the time. And it was such an incredible movie, but I was showing it in my keynote because it was so cool. And so with VO, etc., he set out to really make the first real movie that is completely consistent throughout. And he has the participation of several BAFTA awarded actors. So in the movie. So yeah, it's just super incredible because you can really watch this.
And look at it. Just look at it. It's just so perfectly done. By the way, now he put another mask on Batman's mask, so we don't recognize it. Batman.
Yeah, but the thing is, as you can see here, because we've gone through several scenes, right? And the scenes are all still pretty short. This is one of the limitations of AI, and this is only the trailer for the video. See, so Taylor John Smith is in it, whatever. But the point is, and that's what's so truly impressive about this, is the consistency. Right? Because this was one of the main issues before. How do you create different scenes where everything you see is still consistent if every time the AI just starts from scratch and generates something completely new? And as you can see here now, we're really moving into this age where, these really super consistent productions can be created with AI for, a fraction of the cost what it used to cost to create these things. Yeah.
Yeah, it goes really, really fast. Okay, let's move on to another announcement that was made during Google AI, which is something that we have been talking about for quite some time as well. We have to run that video as well. I'm talking about Project Astra, of course. So for over a year, we had to do with somebody from a London office showing some pencils, but we got a new iteration on that video, and it's pretty cool. Let's just run the video.
So Project Astra is basically Google's attempt at creating Jarvis from Iron Man, from Tony Stark. So a full integrated AI assistant that is completely capable of controlling your phone and thereby using your apps with your permission to do things for you autonomously. So rather than just having an AI assistant like we have right now, where you can ask a question and it can maybe look it up for you online and then give you the answer, you can ask the AI to do things on your phone. So in the video, there's multiple things that are happening, which I will cover in the review that I did and the video that will be linked in the newsletter. So maybe you already saw it now. It can do phone calls for you, which is actually a technology Google already launched like 5 or 6 years ago, but wasn't fully rolled out. It can do phone calls for you to stores, etc., order parts, etc., all of that kind of thing. It can schedule, it can go into your calendar, it can open YouTube, find you videos, and then open them up and scroll through them. It can download manuals and then show them on the screen and scroll to the right page, all of that. The only thing I would like to add to this video is that the video that's being released by Google, there's several times where, and you don't see this if you don't pay attention, but at the bottom left, it says 2x speed. And I didn't even cover this in my analysis video because I didn't notice until later. But they're running it and it seems to go super fast and super fluid and, but they actually sped up the video because it's much, much slower than that. And I think that that's something to be expected of the first generation of this kind of fully integrated assistant. It will get faster along the way. Yeah. So Project Astra, super cool, is basically Google's attempt at agentic AI integration in Android on the phone. And as Patrick has pointed out before we went into this episode and before this recording, that will be integrated, of course, with Android XR and glasses in the future. But for now, another important thing to realize is that how do we want to connect all of these artificial intelligence so that they can actually do things for us? It's one thing to do that on Android, where Google has basically full control to integrate it, right? Which is basically going to be what Apple Intelligence should have been, but will never be. But outside of that, how do you provide the option of integrating AI with everything? Now, and that's where MCP comes in, because MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, which is something that's being pushed by Anthropic. It's now being pushed by Google. And basically this allows for the large language model, or at least the AI that we talk with, right, to have a unified API to the protocol, and then the protocol communicates with everything else. So it can communicate with your private database, it can communicate with GitHub, your cloud documents, but it can also communicate with your apps on your phone and everything else. And that actually makes it possible that AI can integrate with apps that are not AI native. Right? So by doing this, they can build one. Basically, you can make your YouTube talk to the MCP protocol, and MCP protocol talks to the AI. And that way you can control YouTube with your AI, even though YouTube was not built with AI integration in mind. And this is the super cool stuff, because this is going to change everything, because now it's not easy yet, right? I have MCP on my laptop and on my PC, and I'm working with it, but I need to connect everything separately. But in the very near future, over the next few months, you'll basically see that we'll get these MCP integrations that are so easily set up that anybody can install it, and then poof, you can go and it can control stuff for you.
Would that help Apple as well to play a little bit of a game then, a platform like this or a protocol like that?
Well,
aside from all the other challenges that they have, but are we smoothing the way for them to have a small chance of coming back?
Yeah, well, I mean, I can't answer this really well from a technical point of view, because I'm just not that technical when it comes to Apple's ecosystem. But what I can say is that potentially they could. But here we come to the thing that has always been what Apple did to make itself stand out, and that's its whole ecosystem is a closed walled garden, right? There's always been
of everybody thinking within the organization is focused on that as well. So thinking in a different way.
Yeah, and they've always been very, 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 very hesitant and very strict on any kind of access, right? Yes, there are APIs with Apple stuff, but they're super, super, super limited, because Apple didn't want you to use a third-party tool to control anything in their ecosystem, because they want to keep you inside the Apple ecosystem. They want to be the ones to decide how you get access to things. So because they've set that up for 2 decades, obviously now they have an issue. Because now it's going to be super hard for them, because they cannot just say, okay, yeah, we're just going to give full access of this particular Apple app or whatever through the API to an AI, because they can't, because it's already so, closed off on every side, and so very, secure.
No, I totally agree. Hey, talking about Apple, do you remember this guy? John Ivey, an ex-Apple employee who has sold his company for a whopping $6.5 billion to OpenAI. They announced an announcement that they are building a product, that they are building some kind of magical product, and everybody's, of course, expecting a second iPhone or something like that to kind of control your AI, whatever that may be. So far, we only had kind of necklaces, close things, sometimes with a camera on it. They record the speaking of you the entire day. AI can make sense of it. what do you think is here in store for us? What do you feel about this?
Well, the day after the video was released of Joni speaking to Altman, or Joni speaking to Sam, I said this could be the next Apple, right? It has the potential to disrupt the hardware industry and create the next big thing after smartphones. But I also have to admit that when I saw the first image that they released of basically something that looks like a necklace, and I'm not even sure, is this official? I'm still in doubt because I just don't believe it.
So far,
it's official,
that I've
right?
seen, the pictures that I've seen so far, I thought they were all fake, but I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, so I'm hoping I saw something fake, because if they're releasing a necklace, I absolutely, because what I saw was a necklace with a camera. That is just. If they want to fail, that's the way to do it, because people are gonna hate it. It's literally gonna go Google Glass, right? We got glasses now from Google that are finally kind of people are excited about, and etc. But if they release something like that, it's going to be the Google Glass all over again. It's going to be the AI. You remember AI pin, humane AI pin? It's going to be humane AI pin all over again. And that was
also an ex-Apple employee, by the way.
I was also an ex-Apple employee, and for that one, both of us, I remember both of us, we said, this is just never gonna work out, because it was such a stupid form factor, all of that, and what they tried to do. So look, I really don't know, man. Look.
So what I'm afraid of is if you look back to when was the Google Glass first time announced? What is that? 2014, something like that?
Yeah. No,
the big problem was
11 years ago.
Yeah. Big problem was that people were afraid of being secretly recorded. Right now, coming with a device that can record all audio or maybe also video, but let's assume it's just audio. People will object to that as well, right? If it's in a Zoom call, you see that Fireflies is there, then it's all fine, right? You can exclude them from the call if you want to. But if you just walk around the street with an AI device that's recording everything, it will change behavior, how people react to you. And I think that it will not be so easy for them to get it right the first go. And Google Glass, it takes 10 years, 15 years. Now, finally, we see the devices, they are more accepted.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't think it's going to be a necklace, because I just don't see. I mean, if it's going to be a necklace, then it would have to have Bluetooth integration with your earbuds, because you want to be able to hear what it says and you want to be able to talk to it. And then we get to the problem, for example, because this is something I've experienced. I bought the Nothing ears this year, right?
Yeah.
For the single reason that these were the earbuds that were advertised as having the best microphones in them and kind of audio processing. And I'm really mind blown that there's still not dedicated AI earbuds that have AI integrated in them in some way that make sure that all the audio coming through is always very clear and clean for AI assistants. Because even with these, I struggle if there's just a little bit of background noise or wind.
Yeah.
And with the glasses, go on.
Yeah, no, I was thinking, so why not go on the path of glasses? We have not kind of brought that to its final conclusion there, right? We're just hitting that, and I really see a big future, bright future for the glasses. They're finally becoming mature enough to start using. So what this device will do or bring on top of that, or besides of that, a new category, I have to see it.
That's the thing. With the glasses, I think you solve so many problems all at once, right? Because if you have glasses on, the microphone can be at the front, on the nose point, which means that the audio is going to be significantly better. You could even still use something like bone induction or something to take the sound. You automatically have speakers in the glasses feet, or what do you call them, legs, that are close to your ears, so you can hear it, but you don't need to wear earbuds, and you can still have a conversation with the AI. And in fact, there is already the capability of projecting audio in the direction of your ears so that other people cannot necessarily hear what's coming out. So it just makes so much sense from a practical standpoint. And then you can put the cameras in the front and it can see what you see from your exact vantage point. I like to think that I can think out of the box, but I'm having real issues thinking of anything that would be better suited to follow up the smartphone or to complement the smartphone with AI than smart glasses. So the idea that it's going to be a necklace, I think I would be highly surprised, because it makes no sense to me. But if it's going to be glasses, then is it really going to be so? I mean, then it has to all be about how they execute it, right? How they integrate it. And it's not going to be, and it's, of course, it'll have to look cool, but then ultimately, when it comes to glasses, everybody wants to wear the glasses that they like. So it needs to come in every single form factor. And it's not going to be like iPhone when it came out, I don't know.
Yeah. If he wants to top the glasses, I would need a small drone this size that follows me around, that can make recordings. That will be a next level iteration, right? But that ain't gonna happen. So yeah.
Maybe they'll do something cool where it can also kind of pick up brain. I don't know. I'm trying to figure this one out, but
let's wait till they have a real announcement and real pictures coming flying in.
Maybe it'll be a package. Maybe they'll do something where you wear like a wrist or something, and then it can pick up. I don't know. We'll have to see. We'll have to see.
Let's move on to the next topic, because some big releases also outside Google, of course. Anthropic came with a new release, Claude version 4. Big fan always on Claude. Recently, I've been using more Gemini and more ChatGPT, but since Claude 4, I'm all over Claude. It's just kind of difficult to put into words, but it gives me exactly what I want and keeps on surprising me with intelligence, and not for coding, just for writing. I'm using it for writing at the moment. It is slow though, but yeah.
Yeah, so I think that's interesting that you mentioned that particularly, because if you purely go based on benchmarks, Claude 4 doesn't outperform any other model except for on the coding. So agentic coding, it's better than Gemini 2.5 Pro, and it's better than O3. Agentic terminal coding, same thing. But when it comes to everything else, like for example, graduate level reasoning, it's worse than Gemini. It's worse than O3.
Memory is worse.
Memory is worse.
Large PDF, the context window is really small.
Yeah. Visual reasoning is worse. Math is worse. And they have some scores where it's better, but it's only when they severely kind of customize the benchmark. So then why do it at all, in my opinion? Because then you're comparing apples to oranges. Look, I'm using it every day.
Smooth. It's just smooth.
It is smooth.
If you ask it to have a conversation with you, and I don't have that by voice, but because it's not arriving here yet, should be available, but I don't have it yet. But in text, the way that you have an engagement, just ask the right question at the right moment. Feels like you really talk to an intelligent person or something like that. Gives you the most natural feeling of having a conversation.
Oh, okay. So you have probably used it for that way more than me, because honestly, I've just continued using it like I did before with the same projects. I used it to make my LinkedIn posts, or at least clean them up. So I will write some rough draft, I put it in there, and then what comes out is a very clean and ready to go LinkedIn post. I use it for that. I use it for copywriting.
But you have both the same instructions in GPT as you have in Claude, right? So you can make a comparison. If you ask exactly the same prompt with the same instructions, does the one come out on top of the other in terms of social media posting?
Well, yes. So Claude does a better job, but I have to say that Claude has now come to a point where it almost barely really changes the main text of my post. Maybe it's just because it keeps aligning more and more with my style, and so ultimately it's just coming to the same conclusion as me. I don't know. But what you make an interesting point though, because I realized this week that for the longest time I've had this one line that I have set in Claude my projects where I make copy, and that's set temperature 0. And I've removed that now. I've changed it to set temperature 3 or 4, I think, or 0304, sorry. But that controls how free Claude is to be creative and to give a different response to the same question every time. So it controls how human it feels to some extent. Yeah. And I've made it for a very long time. I made it so that it's extremely predictable, so that I can have some measure of control over the output. And I've now lowered that, and I am very happy with it. But you know what? I've told you this before we started recording. I've been using Gemini 2.5 Pro for almost everything.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons is that when I talk to Gemini, also Flash, which I use a lot, the conversations have become so incredibly natural that I mean, Gemini also even just gives, very short answers, doesn't keep jabbering on. And now with the new models, you also have, it's effective and native audio thinking dialogue. So you have a thinking model in voice, which is Flash though, not Pro. Yeah.
So you have the Pro subscription, right? That is about $20 or $25, I assume.
Yeah.
They now have an upgraded package, which is $250. You get phone,
I wanted to get it, haven't been able
the whole
to.
shebang. Yep. Is that attractive to you as an end user? I thought that's a steep price, right? It's the same as a deep research. If you're not using it for deep research,
I wanted to try. Yeah, so I wanted to try out the Google AI Ultra package, but I couldn't yet. And I thought it would be interesting. But then when I really went into it to see what extra it offers, and based off the description, it only seems to offer a YouTube Premium subscription on top of what you get with the Pro for like much more.
Deep research, like with OpenAI, then the actual deep research is also more expensive.
Okay.
But indeed, I was also comparing the packages, and for my personal usage, that big step up in price was not worth it.
What do you think, Gemini?
It sounds like you're comparing the features and pricing of Google AI packages. If the Ultra package doesn't offer enough extra features for your specific needs, then continuing with the Pro package might be a better option.
No, of course, but can you tell us what exactly are the differences between Pro and Ultra? Because we can't figure it out, right, Patrick?
Yeah.
The Ultra package offers a higher level of access to Google's AI tools, including the most advanced Gemini model with...
Oh, failure to comply. Okay, yeah, but okay, so she says you're getting YouTube Premium and 30 terabytes of storage, but what does it give me extra in terms of my interactions with Gemini?
The key differences between Gemini Pro and Ultra are in the advanced AI features and usage limits. Ultra gives...
Oh, it's breaking down again. This is interesting. You hear it breaking down every time?
I hear it breaking down. She really has trouble uttering the advantages.
Yeah, it's like they don't want to. Okay, but what I wanted to show here, this is Gemini 2.5 Flash Preview Native Audio Dialogue. Horrible name, I know. And I activated Proactive Audio. So this is the new AI, which is in Project Astra that we discussed, 10 minutes ago. And this is the functionality where it can differentiate between multiple speakers. So it can understand that you are Patrick, I'm Aragorn, and that we're having a three-way conversation. I wanted to show that, but for some crazy reason, it's breaking down all the time now. Of course, this is the AI studio and it's for trying out new stuff and it's not always going to work, but yeah. So I turned it off. But I can't figure it out. I don't know why Google is offering a package for $200 and there's no way to know, what you get extra. It's just, you're guessing. It's
a good segue to the next topic, Aragorn. Let's try out another voice AI and see if that works. Also a demonstration. I haven't tried it before, but here we have Evie back. Evie stands for Empathic Voice Interface from the company called Hume. We've talked about this company a couple of times already. Last time we did, you could speak into the microphone, into the camera, and the system could not only recognize by the tone of your voice if you're happy or depressed or anything, but also by your facial expressions. It was a pretty scary demo actually, if I showed that to people. But there's something new. You can now design your own voice as you see fit. Let's try it out.
Welcome. I'm Evie3, and I'm here to help you create your own unique AI voice and personality. Think of me as your personal style guide for creating a custom AI. So, tell me, do you have a really strong idea of what kind of voice, personality, or identity you're hoping to create? Or are you more open to exploring some options together?
Yeah, if you have it there.
Okay, interesting, a bear.
Tell her, Patrick.
So when you mind for your...
Okay, Evie, let's design a voice together. What I would like to have is a very good intro voice for our video podcast. And it needs to be this low, dark voice that is really coming across very mature. Can you create something like that?
Okay, a low, dark voice, something mature for a podcast intro. I can definitely work with that vibe. It sounds very sophisticated. So when you picture this mature, dark voice, is there a particular kind of tone it should have? Like, is it smooth and commanding or maybe more thoughtful and introspective?
Thoughtful, wise, and professional.
Okay, I have what I need. You can hang tight now.
Okay, it's loading up. Let's see, creating voice samples. Experiencing high load. Please wait.
Well, hello there. It's quite something to be speaking with you. I'm your AI assistant, you see. Built by Hume AI specifically for this purpose, to help answer questions, find information, and perhaps make your day a little easier along the way. What can I do for you today?
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good. I have to say, I'm surprised as well at how good that was.
Well, I appreciate you saying that. It's always a bit of a surprise to hear how these things land, The aim is simply to be helpful and, well, hopefully a bit engaging. What were you expecting, perhaps?
I've muted it now, so we can continue, because this one doesn't understand who's talking when, but yeah.
It's interesting.
Oh, I didn't mute it. It keeps going. Okay, I turned it off now. Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting, right? So far, when I speak to customers or workshop or whatever, we think about what type of voice do you clone to get to some kind of AI voice. Here you have to kind of really think in a different way. So we can completely generate it out of the box. So what type of voice do you want, right? And you can think with it a little bit from a different angle.
Yeah, it's interesting because, I mean, I've always been a big fan of Chris Voss and Never Split the Difference, his ultimate book on negotiation. And obviously I had a sales career before I went full on into AI. And he really, one of the super important parts of his training is that you have to kind of lower your voice and your sentences going down when you want to have certain results from people, right? And there's more training around this. Like if you want to sound authoritative, you bring your voice down, right? If you want somebody to do what you want them to do, you go like, I'm gonna go to the kitchen and you're gonna pick up your stuff and leave. Right. And that's the kind of voice that creates no room for discussion. This is not advice, relationship advice, people.
No, it doesn't work there. But you're bringing us
that
something so important. The level of manipulation that an AI can potentially do, if this is also under control, is just off the charts, right?
Exactly. That's a point I wanted to make. Yeah.
Scary. So if you want to try that out yourself, you can just go to the demo site we just show you. We move on to something else, another release that came up. Perplexity Labs, finally. Yeah. They also go to the deep research. Have you had time to play with that?
I have. I haven't done much with it yet. And I have to admit, I'm a little ashamed of this because I've always been a massive Perplexity user. Like really, I was one of their earliest big ass fans, I would argue. And I still love Perplexity a lot. I use it a lot, but I've really started using Perplexity as my Google replacement, right?
Yeah.
So at some point down the line, I realized that because of the customization options you have with ChatGPT, and if you, for example, want to have a real reasoned argument, all of that kind of stuff, or you want to do deep research, then you would go to ChatGPT or even to Gemini at this point. And if you just wanted to have quick, simple answers, or you wanted to find sources, right, then you would go to Perplexity. Yeah. But now with the deep research, I have to say I'm very impressed. Because I already used it this week to do some research and to draft me a chart. And the stuff that came out it feels to me to be absolutely on par with ChatGPT's own deep research, and even better in some ways.
Yeah. I'll show you this first. Maybe if you're capable, you can show that one as well that you created. But for people who want to have an idea on what it can do, if you go to Perplexity Labs, there are all kinds of examples. And this one is an interesting one, creative. So based on just one prompt here, you see that it creates a complete lab, an app, all the assets, and also all the sources that you use for. The powerful feature from Perplexity is there as well. So if you go here to app, this is a request to you are a product designer, AI resource and behavioral psychologist in the year 2025. Task, design a futuristic social media platform made for the year 2030. And then it comes up with a complete website. And the thing about this, indeed, most of the agents are putting something out there which is not a completely finalized product as you would like to have it. This is the first time that I see, okay, you really have a complete website that looks just right out of the gate usable, or a game or a quiz or anything like that.
So what you made here, I haven't had this experience yet. I'm actually kind of blown away by what you're showing me right now. So are you telling me that it's the deep research functionality on Perplexity isn't just a deep research, but what you're showing me now is that it basically also does the same thing as GenSpark did at Manus?
Exactly, it does, and it compares very much to what Manus is doing and what GenSpark is doing, and you have that right away. So it can immediately create an app. So it brings also a little bit of Lovable and those kind of apps a little bit into a mix, but then with the Perplexity flavor.
Yeah, see, that has so much potential. I didn't realize this yet. I only played around with it. So what I did, I basically took one of the example prompts that they gave, which is build a timeline infographic, because that's something that's super relevant to me, right? Because I'm always in my keynote talking about timelines. And I tweaked it, said, show the evolution of AI architectures from 8-bit to 158-bit. Oh, no, that was the first question. That was the standard. And then I changed it to build an infographic showing the evolution of technology starting around 10,000 years ago. And what I got was this, right? So I got a whole bunch of sources, 48 sources. I got this image, and I got photos and all this kind of super cool stuff. And then I got this timeline. And basically, yeah, the result was just super, super useful. It wasn't a massive amount of text, so I couldn't go through it, but it was all super relevant, all kind of references everywhere, so I can check everything. And I was just really impressed with this. But as you can see, this is something completely different. This is all the images it found in reference. But this is different than what you got. You got like a way more fully fleshed end product. Man, I really want to play around with it now and try out more stuff.
Yeah, try it out. So that's everything about the update from Perplexity. Let's move to something else.
Yeah, the AI hospital. I wrote this article. It's in the Netherlands for business-wise. By the way, if you didn't know already, on the 11th of June, next week on Wednesday, we're doing an AI Masterclass with business-wise, and Patrick will be there hosting a workshop as well for business leaders. So if you haven't already, make sure to not just like and subscribe us, but to go and claim your ticket at the Eventbrite page. We'll add that in the newsletter. But yeah, I wrote this article for business-wise about the incredible potential and the value of having an AI simulated hospital. Because I posted online that I was super enthusiastic that China created this AI hospital. So basically it's a simulation where the hospital is AI generated, simulated, the doctors are AI, the patients are AI. And somebody online said, Aragorn, what's the use of this? How is this helping real people in the real world?
Seriously?
And to me, that seems super obvious, but I understand that for other people, it might not be. And so I wrote this article. And basically what I want to express is that it's a simulation. And a simulation gives us the opportunity to better understand. Like, how do we predict the weather? We run simulations, right? Schiphol Airport and Hong Kong Airport, two airports among many, run a complete virtual simulation, a digital twin of the airport that allows them to, one, keep track of what's actually going on, and then two, simulate what would happen if they change things. What if we close down this hole? What if we have a bomb alert? What if we lose track of our baggage? So all of these things can be simulated, and then they can see what happens. And the same thing applies to an AI hospital. You can simulate a lot of things, and the further AI progresses, the more granular our capabilities of simulation become. So we will get to the point where we can even simulate, a specific medication or, a treatment, etc. And all of that will then allow us to really develop these in the real world and provide better care for real people in the future. So yeah, and in an AI simulation, you could run it, for example, at 10 times normal speed or 100 times normal speed, right? So let's say that you want to run a simulation for what if another pandemic breaks out and we need a week to develop a new vaccine. I'm just making this up. Yeah. What will happen in the hospitals? Because during COVID, for example, we had overloaded hospitals. We didn't have enough breathing equipment, and then it turned out the breathing equipment was dangerous. All of these things. What if you could just quickly, at the start of a pandemic, start simulating that so that you're better prepared? Massive, massive, massive potential for good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for sharing. I think that was good to reiterate here. Let's move on to the next one. This is also an interesting news article that I found. So, XAI, one of the companies of Elon Musk, is paying Telegram $300 million to integrate Grok into the chat app. The first moment I saw this, I was like, wait a minute, who's paying who again here in this deal? And after giving it some thinking, it's one of those very smart moves, I think, from Elon. He's buying into a 1 billion user base subscription. And when people sign up for an actual subscription of Grok, then the money flows back to Grok, of course, because that they pay via Grok. And this is also interesting. They are allowed to harvest user data so they can better train the AI model, of course.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, and that's massive because one of the main advantages that people have been touting, although I've been hesitant to agree, but that's a different point, was that Elon had access to Twitter. And so he would have the full knowledge base of Twitter or basically everything going on there to train Grok. Now, I've said this before, I don't think that Apple is ever going to catch up in the AI race. And the reason is that they're just too inflexible as an organization, as a business. But Elon is this crazy guy who just, he just does crazy shit. And because he is so flexible in that sense, he was able to catch up the AI industry, even though I honestly thought that might be impossible when he started out. And he's doing it in all these different ways. And so I agree with you, Patrick, that from a strategic point of view, this is a masterstroke because, again, he gets access to a massive social media platform where he gets access to lots and lots and lots of data. But he also positions Grok as the first and foremost potential AI app assistant companion of the future. And that's going to be incredibly important in this kind of arms race that we're witnessing. He's also made this new partnership with Microsoft, right? He was at Microsoft Build recently in an interview with Satya Nadella to talk about how Grok will also be a part of the Microsoft future platform for AI development, AI assistance, and all of that. So he's making some really good moves here and positioning himself more and more as a serious partner. And I think that's all a good thing. I mean, I did a recent video on LinkedIn about Grok Unhinged and all the different characters Grok has, and you and me both laughed at that because we don't really see any good reason to have an unhinged Grok or to have a romantic Grok. I mean, maybe it's a funny gadget. Maybe from a commercial point of view, it could make a little bit more money if you're going to sell it. But from a value point of view, from Elon Musk's own point of view, like we want to create the truth-seeking AI, it makes no sense to have an unhinged AI or a conspiracy AI. Yet that is what they released with their personas.
Yeah, it's just the guy's humor. That's the way
I think so. Yeah,
Easter eggs
so.
and we're both gamers, right? Don't we all like Easter eggs in games and in movies? And he's a gamer too. That's the way that I look at. And if people get a little bit frustrated of the unhinged, you don't have to use it, right? That's yeah. But I'm
super excited because we're gonna get it's June now, so in the next 30 days we will get access to Grok 3.5 if everything goes well, and I'll be very interested to see how that is performing.
I also heard that he is building Colossus 2. 5x more powerful than the other Colossus, which was already colossal.
Yeah, and the reason it's so impactful to think about this is because, of course, we have, and we're going to segue into that, I bet, because that's what you're doing. We have the Stargate project, which is some interesting stuff going on. Yeah, but exactly. I mean, Elon was able to manage to build this massive computer cluster, Colossus, and he did it, what was it, like 2 months? I think 8 weeks or 9 weeks?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Normally takes 2 years. And this is where Elon Musk's absolute superpower comes out, right? Because maybe you can't catch up because you can't train your models faster than the competition. But what if you can build the compute that you need to train the models? You can build it in a month where the competition is taking 2 years. Yeah. That then makes that you catch up 2 years, right? That you can then spend on, catching up other stuff. So this is where this guy is just doing these crazy ass things that are really, really impactful. And by the way, we have to assume that China is doing the same thing, right? We're not going to go into that now, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
And you just already mentioned, so let's segue into that about masterstrokes. This is an interesting news article as well. So, of course, all the tech bosses were recently in Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates. Did I say that correctly? Yeah.
Yep.
So they're building one of the largest data centers. And of course, many people that thought it was a good idea or a bad idea. But one specific thing was interesting, which was a little bit flying under the radar. The entire country gets access to ChatGPT Plus.
Yeah.
In our last newsletter, we had a large discussion, a deep discussion about education, right?
Yeah.
How the education. Here you put an entire country on ChatGPT. I think that is a masterstroke.
It is a masterstroke. And I have a lot of my mixed feelings about the UAE grow every day. I mean, on the one hand, we have this country that's now going to build this second Stargate location. Right. By the way, Stargate references to one of my favorite series of all time, Stargate SG-1, which came after the movie with Kurt Russell, which is super cool. But so they have this, right? The UAE creates these incredible incentives to live there, to do business there. At the same time, they also still basically have modern slavery. Indians come to the UAE and get their passport taken away, and then they get put to work and they sleep in a room with 20 other people, and nobody ever talks about this, which is something that I don't condone. They also build islands in the sea that have no infrastructure for getting rid of rain when it rains, and then they make artificial rain, and then basically all their basements get flooded because they didn't prepare for that. They built the biggest building in the world, the Burj Khalifa, and it doesn't have a sewer system. So literally, I think 50 trucks come and take away shit there every day. Like, the UAE is the craziest ass country in the world, and still I think this is super cool. because in some ways they really, really, really have that vision for the future. Yeah, and I think
it's a long-term planning thing, what we see here. That is the big difference to, for instance, what we see here in the Netherlands or in Europe for that matter. This is long-term planning. Yeah,
that's it. Because, I mean, the UAE must realize that as the world is transitioning more and more into green energy, and by the way, you can see this very, very well, right? There are some different charts. I saw them today where you can see wind and solar energy starting to push out coal and gas and oil, right? And that's a good thing for the world. But these are the oil sheiks. Let's keep that in mind. They're billionaires because they are selling oil. And they also spend it at a rate nobody could possibly. I mean, the American government can, but everybody else, So they must realize that there's going to be a point where nobody wants their oil anymore, and they need to have a plan B, right? And I think that at least the current generation at the UAE, but also in Saudi Arabia, the Saudi prince is also very progressive. They understand this. And I think that this is why they're so heavily investing now. They still can do that to provide the infrastructure and the foundation for what they will need in the future to keep this thing going. And in that sense, they're so much smarter than Europe, right? Yeah, holy shit. Yeah.
Hey, I got two more news articles that you just injected here. One is by Jordan Lee. You want to bring it up and talk a little bit about it?
Yeah, Jordan Lee. So Jordan Lee is this ex-corporate dude turned AI millionaire. That's how he that's his subtitle on LinkedIn. Now, let me get this straight. I don't like people like this, right? I don't like his ethics. I probably would hate his business because look at this. His first AI that he uses books cold calls on autopilot. If I were to guess, this is probably some AI that just does 1,000 calls a day and, whatever sticks. I'm not saying that I fully condone how he does business, but what people need to realize is that what he says here is a reality today. He's making $1 million every month just using 5 AI tools, AI agents that are available today to do it for him. And he literally states which ones he's using, what it costs him, and what he gets out of it. This is the reality of today. And there's going to be more and more people, a lot of super smart young kids that are super quick to figure out how this stuff works, to tie it all together, and then they're gonna run multi-million-dollar businesses, billion-dollar businesses. And this has been said before, so it's nothing new, but I want to reiterate so people really, really take this home, especially for my AI business class, masterclass next week, where you're gonna be as well, Patrick. This is for business leaders, and these people, this is the people that need to understand that this is happening, because this is also going to be your competition. This is also going to be people in your own organization. This is the talent that you're trying to hire that might say no to you so they can go and do this at home, right? The impact is everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Which will lead to...
Yeah.
Well, maybe too simple of a bridge, but these things are, of course, connected, right?
Well, I think this is just another signal, right? You and me, Patrick, we're all about finding signals in the noise.
Exactly.
We're trying to find the signals in the noise. And in the current AI hype, there's a lot of noise. And because of the extreme promises being made by techno-optimists like ourselves, and I fully admit that we are those, people tend to be increasingly skeptical. Yes? Because if somebody says, okay, capitalism is going to die, we're all going to lose our jobs. Look, I totally understand that you're like, okay, but this is crazy. Yeah. But
and definitely also the speed with which is underestimated, right? Okay, that comes later.
Exactly. And so Andre here is a much lauded, very well known. He has 500,000 followers just on LinkedIn. Guy from the AI sector, right? He's worked multiple big companies, being in charge of AI teams, and he's a proponent like ourselves who is really, seeing AI as this new industrial revolution that will be fundamentally changing, because in essence, it's different than every industrial revolution before, because we're creating intelligence, and this will have massive impact on the economy and the job market, etc. And so here's another signal. Basically, this is the amount of software developers that are being employed in the US between 2018 and today. And as you can see, this is a trend that's going rapidly down. So at this point, we already got 20% less software developers that actually have a job that are employed in the US than there were in 2018. And this trend is very strongly driven by AI. Because even if AI cannot take over all the work a full stack developer does, one good full stack developer with an army of AI can do the work of 100 human full stack developers. Yeah. And that's what you're seeing, right?
And you don't only see this with developers. So there were recently some reports about consultancy firms like McKinsey, Boston Consulting Group, and Bain.
Yep.
And you see the same graph here. I think that McKinsey has fired already more than 10% of their workforce due to AI and the ability to work with AI. They have an internal AI, which I feel is called, we should look into that. I hear good things about their internal AI, which should be very sophisticated. It's called Lily, maybe something for the next time. But obviously, these type of agencies are going down as well. And most of the jobs are,
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. It's great that you bring up McKinsey, because do you see what these consulting companies are doing? In the past, the status and success of a consulting company was basically measured from how many hours they are billing their clients, right? How many hours are they billing their clients?
Yeah.
And billing more hours meant hiring more consultants, because more consultants can bill more hours, right? That's logic. They have been silently, right? Because McKinsey has not been pushing this. This has not been at the top of the papers or anywhere, right? The tech companies are firing people, Klarna firing people, and HP firing people, and firing people. This was mainline news, but not McKinsey. And the reason is because they don't want people to really know that this is happening, but they also realize that this is inevitable. And so AI is doing more and more of the work. Yeah. And this is the way of every industry, right? I mean, today it's consultants and creatives, copywriters, movie industry. But next year and the year after that, it will basically be anything and everything.
Yep. That's what we call waves of change, right? Or in other words, look at this, buddy. Here we have it.
Change.
No, this is of course Dutch for those who cannot read it, and it translates to Waves of Abundance. The title of my upcoming book. It's not going to be released in October. It's going to be released in September already. And here we have the final cover. So I'm extremely happy with the cover. And as you can see, there's this tiny Singularity surfer in the middle of the picture. And you see the waves of change. There are 5 waves of change, 5 waves of abundance that I describe in the book. And the 5th is the change of the human, hence the silhouette. I'm so happy with the cover. It was created by Eliana Kolstra. Thank you so much, Eliana, for doing this. And it's in pre-sale now. So we'll include the link. You can pre-order it and ready to rock.
Very cool. So if you want to get ahead of the crowd and you want to get your copy, or you want to get a signature from this super future famous writer, then of course you should come to our AI Masterclass on the 11th of June next week.
Oh, let's go there. Yeah. Well, I cannot sign it there already, but I can promise you that I will sign it for you if you order it right there and then. So last topic of the day, maybe you can explain why people should clear their agenda on exactly next week, the 11th of June. We have a very great agenda there, but what's going to be different?
Yeah, well, look, obviously there's lots of AI events. I took a look at Eventbrite, and I think there's over 100 AI events in the next 2 weeks. But what most of these offer, and I don't want to be disrespectful, but most of these are, okay, we're going to show you how to use ChatGPT to become rich, or they're like, we're going to show you how to code your own app in 5 seconds using Lovable. They're all very simple, very hands-on, very kind of short horizon workshops and sessions to give you tools to benefit in the very, very short run. And that's not what we were trying to do, right? Patrick's book as well. Patrick's book is called Waves of Abundance. And those waves of abundance are not arriving tomorrow. They're arriving 10, 15 years in the future. But to get from today to there, we have to go through a whole decade of massive change. Unlike anything we've ever experienced before. That's at least what we believe. And like I said before, we are trying to find the signals in the noise that will prove to you and show you what's happening. And worst case scenario, prepare you for what is happening so that you may benefit from these waves rather than be, taken by surprise. And our AI Masterclass for business leaders is all about that. We're going to take you on our journey. We're going to show you the signals that we found. We're going to show you the trends that we see. We're going to allow you with all the insight that you need to come to your own conclusions. And then Patrick and me, but Patrick architected this part. So first you get a lecture from me, keynote. Then we're going to do the workshops, which are architected by Patrick, to help you translate insights into actions. Yeah. Inspiration into insights, insights to actions, so that after you leave our masterclass, what you should be doing. And then at the end, there's going to be lunch at the start, there's going to be drinks at the end, and then after the workshops, we're going to have a live podcast with Sanne Kanes and Jan Prakke, recorded on the spot, and the audience will be able to participate, ask questions. So it's going to be a whole afternoon of you getting completely drenched in the coolest stuff happening in the world right now and its potential and how it will, change your future and what you should do with that.
Exactly. So if you cannot make it yourself, think of colleagues that need to be there. You can come in duos, you can come in trios. You're all very welcome. We still have about 50 or 60 tickets to go, so sign up for them. And if you, for whatever reason, cannot make it, then at least share, like, comment this video or subscribe to the newsletter, and see you next time.
Yeah, that's it for now. Like to say in the Netherlands.
See you later.
See you later.
Bridging the gap of exponential growth. Patrick and Aragorn share the truth. Join our community, let's innovate. With Innovation Network, create a bright